Hedgie's Corner, we're going to look at circles. So, what is a circle? It is, everyone knows what a circle looks like. So, let's look at the definition. It's a set of all points in a plane that are equidistant. We hopefully remember that from geometry. Equally distant is what that means from a given point in the plane, which is the center. Now, the radius is a segment from the center to a point on the circle. Okay, so you probably remember that from all of your previous math classes, but let's go into a little bit more detail here. Okay, so we're going to work with equations of circles. So here's the standard form. X squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. And that is when the center is at 0, 0 at the origin. And the radius is always r. Now, if the center is shifted when it's not on the origin, this is the formula we're going to use. X minus h squared plus the quantity of y minus k squared is equal to r squared. And the center is going to be given these variables hk. So, for example, if I'm given this equation that is written, then the center is going to be at 3, negative 2. And the radius, remember, this is r squared. So that square root of 16 is 4. So that's the radius. All right, let's look at a few more. It says write an equation for the graph. Okay, so in number 1, the first thing we have to do is we have to take a look at where the center is. So in this case, this center, I'm going to pull it out so I have everything in front of me, is negative 3, 1. And the other point that I have there, again, that's HK. And that's those points HK. And then my other point, which I'm going to get to later, is to negative 1. Okay, so now again, up top, I'm going to write the formula so we have it. It's x minus h quantity squared plus y minus k squared quantity squared is equal to r squared. So in this case, I have my h and k, but I don't have my radius. So I'm going to have to use that other point to help me find it. So if I start with x plus 3 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to r squared, I need to fill in the values for x and y to help me get to r. So this is where this second point is going to come in. So I have 2 plus 3 quantity squared plus negative 1 minus 1 quantity squared is equal to r squared. So this gives me 2 plus 3 is 5, so it's 5 squared is 25. I have negative 2 squared, which is positive 4, is going to give me r squared, so r squared is equal to 29. Okay, so my final equation is going to be, now I'm going to go back to here, and the only thing I'm going to replace is this r squared. X plus 3 quantity squared plus y minus 1 quantity squared is equal to 29. Now 29 is r squared, and that's what our formula is right up here. So I don't have to take the square root of that. It's not asking me what the radius is. It's just asking for the equation. Okay, let's look at one when we have it right at the origin. So our center is right at the origin, 0, 0. And then this value right here is 1, 5, 1, 5. Okay, so our other point, and again, this is going to be HK, and our other point is 1, 5. So again, we start off with x squared plus y squared is equal to r squared. So now we know that the center is 0. So we're going to get 1 minus 0 quantity squared plus 5 minus 0 quantity squared, which is equal to r squared. So we know that 1 squared is 1 and 5 squared is 25. So we know r squared is going to be 26. So our final equation is going to be x squared plus y squared is equal to 26. Okay, so now we're going to move on. And we're going to continue with that. We're going to talk specifically about some other things here. Write an equation for a circle at the endpoints of the diameter. So if we're looking at a circle, what we're talking about here, let's use our circle. If I'm talking here about my endpoints of the diameter, so what does that mean? They're talking about this piece here and here has these 2 points. Okay, so the first thing I have to do is find the center. So I know, think about this, if diameter we know goes through the center. And the center, this is a radius, right? And this is a radius. So when I'm trying to find the center, I'm actually trying to find the midpoint of where those endpoints lie. Okay, so I'm going to use my midpoint theorem. And I'm going to add my 3 plus. I'm going to go back to these points, and I have 3 plus 1 divided by 2. That's going to be my x value. And my y value is going to be negative 3 plus 5, also divided by 2, right? I want the midpoint. So 3 plus 1 is 4, divided by 2 gives me 2. Negative 3 plus 5 gives me 2, divided by 2 gives me 1. So that's my center. So this is my center. Now I want to find my radius. So we are going to use the formula that we had used up here, right? So we're going to have, we now know what our center is. So I'm going to have x, and again, we can write this all out if we need it. X squared, x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared is equal to r squared. Now I'm going to pick either point. Doesn't matter which point I use. I'm going to use this first point here. Actually, no, let me use this point right here. I'll use one because they're both positive. It might be a little easier. So I have 1 minus 2 squared plus 5 minus 1 squared is equal to r squared. So this gives me negative 1 squared is 1. 5 minus 1 is 4. 4 squared is 16. And that is equal to r squared. So r squared is equal to 17. So the radius is equal to the square root of 17. Okay. Now we're going to write the equation of the line. So we actually have everything we need here. My equation of the line is going to be, remember, we're going to go back up to our original here, and we just have to replace that r squared. So I have x minus 2 squared plus y minus 1 squared, and r squared is equal to 17. So I'm going to stop right there. Okay. Now, there's a last thing I think is a little interesting about this, right? When we went back to this, let's go back to the original, right? When we look at this diagram, our distance and our radius is going to be from the center to the end point, right? That's our distance, that's our radius. So if I wanted to find the radius that way, I actually could, and by using the distance formula, which we've used before in this chapter. So if I use my 2 points, I know that my center is 2, 1. And I can pick again, I can pick either point. So if I stick with 1, 5. Okay, so I'm finding the distance from the center, right? This is the center to a point in the circle. So I'm really finding the radius in this case. So the radius is equal to the square root of 1 minus 2 squared plus 5 minus 1 squared, which is the square root of negative 1 squared is 1. 4 squared is 16, which again, radius is equal to the square root of 17, which we found up here. So again, just another way of just kind of understanding how these circles go. All right, let's start to graph some. In number 4, it says find the center of the radius with the given equation, then graph the line. Okay, so we know here, we're going to start off basic. We know here that my center is 0, 0. And then remember, this is the radius squared, right? So this radius squared is equal to 81. Take the square root of both sides. So my radius is going to be equal to 9. So let's start with my center here is 0. And my radius is 9. So it means I'm going 9 in every direction. So I have 9 here, 9 here, 9 here, 9 here. All right, now we're connected, and we're going to see how this circle is created. So let's play around with this tool a little bit. Let's bring this out. All right, there's our circle. Pretty good. All right, let's look at the next one, number 5. Now, again, we have a lot of different things going on here, so we have to pay attention first of all. So we know that our center, is going to be negative 2/3 and positive 1/2. So this is a little tricky because we know we're dealing with fractions, which we never like, right? So we have negative 2/3 and 1/2, and then our radius squared is 16 over 25. If I take the square root of both sides, then I know the radius is 4 over 5, which is just a little bit less than 1. So let's start with the center. So I have negative 2/3, positive 1/2. So we're right about there. And our radius is just a little bit less than 1. So again, we're doing this by hand. So we're kind of creating a super, super small circle. And on this one, I'm just going to kind of do it by hand. And there we go. All right, let's look at our last one for today. This time the equation is definitely different than what we've had in the past. So let's kind of organize a little bit. So again, I have some x's and I have some y's, so I have to kind of regroup them. So I have x squared. I want to put the x's first because that's how we write our formula, plus 4x. So I took care of this and I took care of this. I'm going to leave a little bit of space because we're going to use it completing the square, which we've done a lot already in this unit, plus y squared minus 10y. So I've used this and this. And this -7, I know I need that to the for the other side. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides and get that. Oh, I forgot I need a spot here. So let's add that here. So when I use the completing the square, I'm okay. All right, so we get x plus half of 4 is 2, and so that's going to be x plus 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. Add my 4 there. Whatever I do to one side of the equation, I'm going to have to add to the other side. Okay, now I'll do the same thing with y. Y minus 5, right? Half of -10 is -5. -5 squared is 25, so I'm going to be adding 25 here. Whatever I do to one side, I have to do the other side. So when I clean this up, I need to add these 3 values. So I have x plus 2, quantity squared plus y minus 5, quantity squared is equal to, and when I add all of that up, I get 36. Okay, so let's do our points now. We have our equation. It looks really good. So my center is going to be -2, +5. And my radius is a square root of 36, so that's going to give us 6. So let's see what I have. -2, 5 is going to be here. And the radius is going to be 6. I'm going to count 6 in every direction. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm off 1 here, so I'll just add it up there. Okay, let's see if I can get this. Use this circle tool again. And then we'll bring it down a little bit. And I'll just adjust it just a little bit so my circle's all set. Thanks so much for stopping by. Have a great day.